are some divisions where you could see some movement, and this is one of them. Assessing the quarterback situation of the AFC South teams. Lance, where do you want to start here?
Okay, let's start with the easiest team out of the four, the Tennessee Titans.
That is the easiest team. I think Tannehill is there. Tannehill signed a long-term contract. He fits what they want to do. If you watched him play last year, to me, I thought he played really, really well. I'm actually a fan of Tannehill. That's hard to say. I'm a fan of Tannehill. I enjoy him, so I don't think he's going to go anywhere. We got one more comment about Ben has nothing to prove anyway. He can go. Hans agrees he should go, and Rahul,
I believe so.
Rahul just not logged in and said hello. Rahul, how are you, buddy?
Yeah, aloha, Rahul. Yeah, I do agree with Ben. Yeah, doesn't have anything to prove, but if I will put a bet on it, I believe that he will be back next year on a lower salary. Right now, as it stands, Pittsburgh is $30 million over the cap. So they have a lot of reduction that needs to be done in order to go under it. And Big Ben's contract is one of them.
Well, listen, going back to Pittsburgh really quick. Pittsburgh is $30 million over the cap. That's true. I also believe that out of a 52-man roster, that I think Pittsburgh has 20 free agents. They've got some incredibly huge free agents. They can't
pretty much around
anybody.
That number.
Yeah, they can't re-sign anybody. Mike Hilton's their slot corner. He's a superstar. They're going to lose him. Bud Dupree's a superstar. They're going to lose him. Their nose tackle. They're going to lose him. Their third cornerback, Hilton. I'm sorry, no, I forget his name, but they're going to lose him as well. So that there's a lot of guys they're going to lose. They're going to lose their left tackle. Their center retired. There's a lot of people that are leaving, and they're still $30 million over the cap. That team's in trouble. But we're talking about the AFC South. We already did Tennessee. Who else is on the list?
Okay, so here's another easy option also from the AFC South, the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Well, like the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to make a change. It's going to be a change, and you and every other draft expert have already predicted who's going to be there. So, okay, let's talk about this. What are the odds that Jacksonville trades out of that number one pick and doesn't take Trevor Lawrence?
0.
Absolutely 0. Not going to happen.
Stone cold 0. Not going to happen, but it's not going to happen.
Why would you ever trade away from a guy that people have been saying is the greatest quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, he's just the guy. So yeah, I don't think there's any way Urban Meyer takes that job if he doesn't think he's going to take Lawrence. I just don't think there's any way.
I believe so. I was able to watch Trevor Lawrence pro day in full, and he does have a zip. Yeah, he does have a zip in the ball, so he can make those throws. And what's more interesting though for Jacksonville is that once they take Trevor Lawrence, what are they going to do with Gardner Minshew? I mean, he did well enough to merit some suitors from other teams. So could he be a trade asset? Could be the backup for the Jaguars? I believe that he is more than a backup. He can help other teams in the NFL.
Look, I watched Gardner Minshew play a little bit. He was not terrible. He's going to be a great backup quarterback for a very, very long time in this league. He's a guy that could start and win you a few games if you have a decent team. Minshew, unfortunately, played on a team that just was not very talented. I mean, they look, offensively, they were actually okay. They have Chark, who's a decent wide receiver. The rookie running back was actually very good. Their offensive line's a little questionable. They don't have a lot of other weapons besides that. But that wasn't a terribly offense as far as having talent goes. So I think Minshew could play somewhere. I just don't think he's going to be a starter somewhere unless he ends up in a place like I said, like a New England where it's like a sneaky deal. They bring him in on that dirt cheap rookie contract and they make him the starter and see what he can do. Now, the rest of this division is actually really interesting. Let's move on to the rest of this division.
Okay, so for more headaches, John, the Houston Texans.
Deshaun Watson wants out in the worst way. Deshaun Watson is trying everything to get out of Houston, and Houston is saying, you cannot go. You cannot get out of this relationship. You cannot leave. We cannot let you go. But I honestly believe in my heart of hearts that they want to keep him. But they're smart enough to understand that they have one of the most valuable assets in the history of the NFL. Lance, there is no doubt in my mind, he is one of the most valuable assets in the history of the NFL. You are never going to see a top 3 or 4, wherever you want to rank him, wherever you want to put him in position. You're never going to see a top 3 or 4 quarterback get traded like this again in the history of the NFL. It's never happened before, and it'll be tough to happen again. So if they pull it off, and I think they're going to, I think they're going to find somebody. I think they've been talking. I think the story got out early enough that as you see all these other quarterbacks start to say, oh, I want out too, or I want to get moved. Who would you rather have? Would you rather have Deshaun Watson or Carson Wentz? Would you rather have Deshaun Watson or would you rather have, you know what I mean? Like, who would you rather have? Who would you rather have more than Deshaun Watson? Mahomes and who else? So I think Watson's going to go. The question is, what's the value of Deshaun Watson on a trade market? What do you think Deshaun Watson's worth?
Yeah, especially now that J.J. Watt was just released by the Texans. So Deshaun Watson is more than ever frustrated that he is still part of the roster. And as for Texans, they have to listen to the offers as well, because they cannot just block any offer that is put on the table because just like you mentioned, they have the gold in their hands. So if they exchange it for something else, then they might get a bigger treasure in their possession that will eventually maybe improve the franchise even further. But as far as value of Watson, I see not less than 3 first rounders for Deshaun Watson. I mean, he's hitting the peak of his career. He led the league in passing yards. He led the league in passing yards last year. So a team would trade for Deshaun Watson. I see a minimum of 3 first-round draft choices.
Yeah, look, Houston's in a terrible position because of their salary cap position, because they don't have any draft assets. They're in a terrible position. But and here's the key. They can use this Deshaun Watson trade, and they can springboard themselves back to some normalcy. They can get out of the bad cap situation. They might be able to swing themselves into the top 5 and get themselves a quarterback. You know, they do have options available to them. Imagine if they put together a deal with Miami, and Miami were to give them 2 or 3 first-round draft choices and Tua. Well, now you have Tua. You could take another quarterback in that with that top 5 pick. You can have 2 young quarterbacks. 2 young top 5 quarterbacks. In the history of the NFL, that's never happened. If somebody's had that back-to-back years, you stack these guys, you create the ultimate quarterback controversy, the ultimate quarterback competition. I take that back, not a controversy. You create the competition. The cream rises to the top. One of those guys is going to be it. They're going to make each other better, and one of those guys is going to be it. And I'm going to hire a quarterback guru to get them both up to speed. And then next year, I'm trading one of them, and I'm going to get some assets back. So I'm either going to get a first rounder next year for one of them, or a first rounder and plus the year after. I don't know. You're going to get something back for it. I think it'll be a great move for them to get Watson out of there. They have nothing there. They lost Will Fuller. They have no offense anymore. They have no defense. The thing's a damn mess. They should have never let Bill O'Brien run the damn thing. So move on, move forward. Tell me about the last team in the division.
Okay, the last team in the division is the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah. Great organization. Very New England-like the way they've been building that thing. Building it through the draft. Very, very, very targeted acquisitions out of free agency. Not huge splashes, but they get really, really good value out of the guys that they do bring in. They always have cap room. These are the guys who could make a deal. This team actually makes a tremendous amount of sense for Deshaun Watson, except for the fact that they're in the same division, and Houston would never do – well, you would think that Houston would never do that. Houston is obviously not a brilliant organization at this point. Their track record isn't exactly the best. So, but let's just say he doesn't end up there. So I don't know. Right now they have no one on that roster, I think, who is a starting quarterback. They've already tried Jacoby Brissett. It didn't work. Jacoby Brissett's not the guy. So who is the guy in Indianapolis? I think that's the question. They were talking about Carson Wentz maybe going there. I don't know. What do you think? You think there's somebody out there that we haven't discussed in the mainstream media that could be out there?
I believe that the most imminent quarterback that might be the starter for Indianapolis next season is, like you've mentioned, Carson Wentz. It checks a lot of boxes for Indianapolis because he is a Frank Reich disciple, and he needs a fresh start. So all of those things, all of those matters. And mind you that Indianapolis actually has one of the better offensive lines in the NFL. So that benefits any quarterback that would come there. I mean, from Philadelphia, to Indianapolis, that's a big jump in terms of protection. And I guess that's where Carson Wentz will be able to build his confidence back. But there's also another option for the Colts because they have the second highest cap space at 69 million. So they can look at the other free agent quarterbacks in the market. So what about Dak Prescott or maybe a Mitch Trubisky coming to Indianapolis? So those are interesting options for Indianapolis. They have a lot of options. They have a lot of paths that they can go to.
Look, if you're going to sign somebody like well, obviously Dak Prescott we'll talk about later when we get to Dallas, but that's a tough move to get Prescott away from Dallas. I think that if you're going to sign someone like Trubisky, it's a 1-year deal. It's a 1-year prove-it deal. Come in, show me you can be the guy. We'll pay you $10 million, and you get an opportunity to start again. But that guy did very little in Chicago to let me think that he's actually going to be a good quarterback. So.